Oh wow, with those bright neon colors, the 90s are calling me back. And I'm okay with it for this edition of He-Man. Hello toy fans, I'm here with another one of my toy openings. I happened to pick this up recently from Walmart. It was on clearance for $4. I was able to pick both He-Man and a Skeletor up. And we'll be looking at the Skeletor a little bit later towards the scary season of our toy openings. But I really wanted to open up He-Man. And some of the reasoning why is because A, I like He-Man, and B, the Ground Ripper sounds an awful lot like the Road Ripper, which, if you remember, was an Eagle Dragon inspired motorcycle. This also being an Eagle Dragon inspired motorcycle in bright green. So I'm really happy to have this particular edition of He-Man from the new He-Man the Masters Universe toy line from Mattel in my collection. As soon as I saw the motorcycled characters, He-Man, Skeletor, and Man-at-Arms, I kind of had my eye on them forever, but never picked them up until I saw they were $4 and really could not pass up that deal. Now, looking at the package here, of course, we get the animated He-Man here from the new Netflix series of He-Man the Masters Universe, and it's actually a pretty interesting cartoon, an animated show. I happen to like it. My kid hasn't gotten into it so much, but I have, and I've really enjoyed it. It has a little bit more of a sci-fi feel to it, other than kind of the fantasy and sword and sorcery sort of look that we've had before. With this, we get the He-Man the Masters Universe logo in here. We get He-Man and the Ground Ripper. Shows that there's a power attack, and of course it's made by Mattel. Now, other than that, this is an open packaging, so there's a little bit of plastic up here that keeps He-Man in place, and of course there's lots of little vinyl style rubber bands to hold him down. But other than that, we can turn wheels, we can turn head. Can't really turn anything else, but we can touch it, which is pretty cool. Back wheel doesn't turn back here because it's down on the packaging, but we get to kind of see how that free roll works up there. Now, heading to the back. Heading to the back of the package, we get, of course, another repeat of the logo, He-Man the Masters Universe. It says, roll into action. And it has a little blurb here that says it stores battle accessories. Now, He-Man does come with his sword. And this sword is a bright fluorescent yellow sword, so it's actually kind of cool. With this, we see that he has a power attack. It says pull and release. And I'm wondering if that comes from his waist, because that would be really cool. It also looks like he has it. Oh yeah, it looks like he can tip forward in battle as well. We get a picture of He-Man. This is a computer-generated picture of He-Man on his motorcycle with the sword in his back. And it says also available, and it's got Skeletor down there. Now, the only one not showing is Man-at-Arms, but I believe there is a Man-at-Arms with motorcycle. And I was really tempted to pick that up back in the day, but never did. And I'm kind of wondering if I might come across it one day on clearance, much like I was able to get He-Man and Skeletor. Now, of course, that's He-Man and his Road Ripper and his sword in packaging. And the package at this point, it's not going to tell us anything else about this. We need to get this one off and get to playing. And straight out of the packaging, this is what we get. Of course, we get He-Man, that's highly articulated. Well, He-Man is an articulated figure, his power sword, and the Road Ripper. And each one, I mean, it's a good substantial amount of plastic for the price point that they're giving us, because I think these were running right at about 20 bucks. This is actually pretty cool. Figure, vehicle, weapon, it works. Let's take a look at the weapon first. Now, from my understanding, that this power sword is pretty much the same mold as all the other power swords, except they've got this little button thing here on the back that allows for this to plug into the Road Ripper. And it is made in a very bright, almost fluorescent yellow plastic. But it has a lot of good detail. You got a kind of looks like almost a gray skull there. It's a big, thick broadsword. It's got a nice handling on it. And, or a hilt, I should say. And look, the cross guard is fun, and it's got all this almost like mechanical stuff that comes down out of this. Very interesting. I like that a lot. Now, let's look at He-Man. Now, He-Man does have this peggable area on his back, so you can put the sword on his back for him to carry around. I like that. I think it looks good. And it holds fairly well. Now he does have this separate armor here, though this armor does not come off. So this group of He-Man, they're not going to have like, you know, pieces that are swappable from one character to another. But looking at him, he looks the part of He-Man. We get a nice motif of that gray skull up here in this kind of silvering plastic, and we get some soft goods loincloth here. We get a turnable head, and it's kind of on a ball joint, so it has a little bit of movement here. It is hindered a little bit by the hair. We do have these arms, and they just swivel all the way around. There's no bicep tilt on it, so they're just going to go up and down and swivel. There is also a swivel here at the hands as well. And those hands are huge. When you compare his hands to his head, he does have a very big animated sort of look about him. And then of course his legs, these have some hinging on. So it's a ball hinge, so it does have a little bit of movement that allows for that to basically rock and move. Nothing in the thighs, so there's no movement there, even though they are different pieces of plastic. Now we did see the sword fit on his back, and this does fit in his hand fairly well. Now the action feature actually comes from this sort of jointed, it's a ball jointed body, but it has like a rubber band in it, so you can, woo, I just threw the sword off. Let's try that again. There we go. So he can battle that way, he can chop that way. Battle that way. One thing is, when he's flipping around with that sword, he does tend to throw it. I wonder if this hand might actually be better. Yeah, so I'm thinking my new He-Man, this new version of him, he's a southpaw, he's a lefty. I think that works. Alright, now let's take a look at the Ground Ripper. Not the Road Ripper, but the Ground Ripper. So the Ground Ripper is a motorcycle inspired much like the Road Ripper. And something to keep in mind, it's a hollow bottom motorcycle. It's got free rolling wheels, a couple different types of plastic, and the handlebars move to accommodate whoever is riding it. Now, He-Man fits on there quite nicely. Let's pull his arms out, and the handles can turn to fit his hands, which is pretty cool. Very nice. And they've given us a couple options of where to put his sword. Now, could, I guess in theory, set it up there and have it come off the end, but instead they also made this peggable area here so you can pin the sword on the back, just like that, and he can roll into action with his sword sitting off. Now, I'm not quite as sold about that. I think I kind of like this in a way too. It does cover the wheel, but it doesn't keep this from moving and shaking. On the package, I know they have it with the sword like all the way up over here. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but I know with the Skeletor motorcycle, he has a Havoc set that comes out, so that might be just the best way to display it, so you can still see the sword and still get to get a feel for what it is. Wow. That is a pretty neat motorcycle. I like that a lot. Now that's all I gotta say about, you know, this He-Man, and of course his Road or Ground Ripper, I should say. It's a cool set. I'm really glad that I was able to pick this up and put it in my collection. For the most part, I've been able to get most of the He-Man collections, though this last one I kept passing up just because I wasn't quite as invested in it, much like I wasn't quite as invested in Origins. But I will have to say that I'm really happy to have this one in my collection, and now I just need to find a place to put it on the shelf with the rest of my He-Man stuff. That's all I gotta say about He-Man and his Ground Ripper. Remember, they're not dolls. In this case, it's a He-Man on a motorcycle with a neon flashy sword. Gotta love it. When I'm not recording videos here on YouTube, I'm actually over on a podcast on marvindogmedia.com called Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff. It's a really cool toy podcast. Be sure to check it out. Also, I need your help getting my YouTube channel to grow. Be sure to subscribe down below with that big red button. Hit that bell for notifications so you can be alerted of anything that comes from me to you. Like this video, it helps YouTube know that you like what I'm making, and comment down below. I like chatting with you all.